Hey everybody, Micah from Black Bear Custom Kydex. I just finished a cool project for Ginger from Virginia. If you guys have been following me, you probably recently saw a video I did for another couple sheaths, or another video on a couple sheaths I did for Ginger probably about a month ago, maybe a little less, and I owe her an expedited order. So she sent me, the first time around, a Hyper Tough hatchet and a Mora Eldris. And second time around, she sent me her Tops Fieldcraft 3.5. This is a fairly new knife from Tops, but it is, if you guys know Tops knives, you already recognize it. It is the little brother knife to the Tops Bob. Now, it's not the Tops little bro, that's a whole other knife. Actually, just happen to have one in the shop right now for my buddy Scott. So, totally different knife. But the Tops Bob, absolutely legendary bushcraft knife. I think it's a great EDC knife in general, maybe a little bit on the large side for EDC, but it's a really competent knife that I've personally really enjoyed. So I imagine this thing would be every bit as capable, just in a smaller package, obviously. So really like this thing, tempted to pick one up. She sent me the knife, and the whole deal was she gave me specifications for the attachments and the carry setup and all that, but she asked me to choose the colors. So she wanted it to be a leather dangler, but a breakaway dangler as well. She wanted a leather scout strap to carry horizontally. She wanted a spot for her Sunto clipper. I'm actually just going to give her an additional Sunto clipper. She wanted to add an Exotac Nano Striker XL, a survival whistle, and a flashlight, an Olight i3E EOS. I think that's everything. Oh, and a AAA battery, because that's what powers the EOS flashlight. So if it ran out of juice, she'd be able to plug a new battery in and rock and roll with that. So I got looking at it, and with a knife about this size, I would have to make the sheath, come out like an extra 3 to 4 inches from the tip of the knife to be able to fit everything on there. I could do that, but I thought I would contact her and tell her that would be, probably a no-go. Honestly, for the setup, it would make more sense to have a separate thing to carry some of the items. So I asked her if she had any preferences. She said as long as the light and the compass were on the knife, she'd be really happy, and I could make some kind of separate holder for the other things. So I tried a few different things out, and ultimately what I decided to go with was the flashlight, the extra battery to go with the flashlight, and the compass. I was able to get all those onto the sheath, and then the Exotac Nano Striker XL and the survival whistle, I decided to just do something that I've never done before. I've seen similar things to this, but it's basically just, it's a combat loop, so it's very easy to operate, and it holds, it's got a plate that matches the Kydex on the sheath. You can see it is, well, maybe you can't see. I'm going to try to get some better light up in here. Bear with me 1 second, folks. Okay, hopefully this is a better lighting situation for you guys. So if you can tell, the Kydex here is whiskey texture. It's true hide whiskey texture, so it's kind of like a faux leather. I used, on the sheath itself, I used true hide whip texture, which is the black color, and then whiskey texture for the accents and attachments, which is the brownish. So I think this thing came out really great. We're going to show you that in just a second, but I want to take a look at this. So the whole idea with this is it's just a matching plate. The shock cord is actually what's holding the plate onto the combat loop, and all you really have to do with this is thread your cylindrical attachments through those shock cord loops. So it's really easy to use, and one of the things with it excuse me, one of the things with it is that you do have the option of accessing and using these tools without actually removing them from, or fully at least, from the loops, because it can be a little bit tricky to put them back. So what I would recommend for the Exotac, is easier to put back in because it has this flat beaver tail, so you can kind of like It's almost like knitting. You put that under there and you can kind of pry it through. So that's not terribly difficult to do. Might require a little help at the bottom there. Alright, so that's fairly easy. The whistle, however, because it doesn't have a flat tapered side, it's just a flush ending there, it makes it a little more difficult. So I've put another piece of Kydex in there just to help you be able to pry the loops open and get that in there. But you could use anything else, you know, screwdriver, you could pick up a twig off the ground. There's a lot of different ways you can get that in there. However, what I would recommend you try is if you really need to use your whistle, I mean, if it's a super emergency, obviously putting the whistle back into the sheath is going to be less of a priority. Chances are you have pockets too, so if you needed to, you could always just throw it back in your pocket real quick. But if you have the time to take the belt clip off, it's as fast as that to remove the belt clip. So you're talking like a few seconds. I don't think it would take much less time. I mean, to rip this thing out of there, you know, maybe half a second. So you're looking at a difference of just a couple seconds. But you could get the belt clip, pull it straight off your belt, and then as long as you push that whistle up to clear the opening, make sure the opening is not covered by shock cord, you could actually blow into this while it's attached to the thing. So I'm not going to do it because I'm a little bit sick and because I don't want to put my germs on Ginger's stuff, but using the air compressor, I will simulate. So you can hear that, just a little bit of air into that opening, and you're going to start to get that to whistle for you. So I would definitely recommend trying it like that. I think it's an effective way to use it, and might save you the hassle of having to put it back into the shock cord. So just a little thing. I'm not sure how much she'll like this or not. We had talked about making like a hip pouch kind of Kydex holder for it, and then I described what I had in mind for this, and she said go with it, try it out, she'll see how she likes it. I won't be offended if you don't, so I definitely want your feedback. Let me know what you guys think, and Ginger, definitely give this a try and tell me what you think after using it a little bit. Alright, so the sheath, the exciting part here. This thing came out really great. I am a huge fan of doing things like complicated setups and having all that tricky stuff on there. And this was actually a really tricky sheath to build. I know it's kind of small and it doesn't have a ton of stuff on it, but one of the biggest obstacles to overcome was having a breakaway dangler, which requires this kind of adapter back here, which allows you to separate the dangler loop from the actual sheath. So having a breakaway dangler as well as a leather scout strap. And the original thought I had was the scout strap is just going to have a lot of excess on it to be able to reach up and over this apparatus. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that if you did have it coming up and over, I would have to do something. Excuse me. I would have to build something up on the back to match a similar height. I could have just had this same piece, obviously doing that, but then the belt would be against this. You know, if you're wearing it with this side against your body, your belt would be against all this stuff, and there would be something like at least a 1-inch gap, somewhere around there, about an inch gap between your body and the knife. So it would stand off quite a bit. I don't think that would be very comfortable. It would have a high potential of being able to rock back and forth because this is kind of a domed contour here. It's not really flat. So just about everything about it made me really think that the best option would be to make this sort of a one-way scout carry. So you can really only have this side against your body with the configuration that you're looking at right now. You do have the option, I'll tell you right now, you do have the option of removing the Dangler adapter. So if you knew that you were just going to carry this thing scout and you didn't need the dangler, you could take the Dangler adapter itself off and then just run this thing as with a scout strap that would be two-sided. So you just have to make sure you take the flashlight holder off and then mount this, just lift the leather up over it obviously and put the hardware back through. So very easy to do, very doable. It would just require a Phillips head screwdriver and about 5 minutes. The other thing is that because it is only one-sided and because the back side has the scout strap hidden, you only are going to be able to you can only access the hardware, the pull-it-out snaps from the side that's against your body. So I know that's a little bit trickier as well, but it is a tall loop. I made sure that the loop would be very tall, so you can kind of pull this down and make sure that your belt is excuse me, make sure your belt is kind of wedged up into the fold of the leather, and that's going to expose these below your belt. So, you know, push it down, that's going to expose these below the belt, and then you can reach back there and pop them open. As far as how they work, pull-it-out snaps are one-way fasteners, meaning that you can only snap them shut and open them in one direction. So if you tried to close them from the top here, you know, putting the tip down first, you're not going to be able to do that. You have to put the inner edge down first and kind of roll the snap toward the edge of the sheath. It goes very easily. Likewise, it comes off fairly easily, and you have to pull from the edge up. Simple as that. The whole idea behind pull-it-out snaps is that it prevents if your sheath gets, you know, something snags it or whatever, it's putting stress against that snap. The snap's not just going to come undone unless you do it from the actual direction that it's meant to open by. So it's just sort of a protection measure there. It makes it a much more rugged apparatus. And yeah, I don't like snaps to begin with, but if you're going to wear them, I definitely would go with pull-it-out snaps. As far as the Dangler adapter itself goes, like I showed you just a second ago, you can separate the sheath from the belt loop. This one I found, I think, a really happy medium between strong enough to be very secure on you, but also having an easy enough draw that you can, you know, it doesn't take gorilla strength or anything to pop this off of there, and it actually resheathes a little bit easier than it pulls off. So hopefully that's not too much of a pain there. Obviously, if you're going to go with something like a breakaway dangler, you do need this to be fairly secure, just because anything could happen out there. You could snag your sheath, whatever. I just don't want this to come off and you know, have you lose your gear. I think you would notice the weight difference pretty quickly. Plus, if you snag, your first instinct going to be to make sure you didn't drop something, I think. But, you know, just in case, I'd rather not have that hassle to begin with. So I make these basically as secure as I think is reasonable for what the thing is. So this is not a particularly large or heavy sheath, so I don't think the adapter has to be any stronger than it is right now. But it is very functional. I think it's comfortable. You can see that even with the knife in it, and even though the loop starts a little bit low, you know, normally I attach the base of my Dangler adapters to a little tab that I create right up here. Just a little outcrop on the back of the mouth of the sheath. So the dangler usually rides a little higher, forcing the knife to be a little bit lower. But I decided to make this one with the loop just about level with the top of the knife. It's a small knife, so you don't have to worry about doing that weird chicken wing long draw upward or anything like that. But yeah, even with the knife, you can see that the cant is not very aggressive away from your body. So that's usually what I try to go for, is something easy like that. It also has a tendency, because of the weight placement on it, to tip forward just a little bit like this. It doesn't want to ride like that. So this actually, I think, is kind of cool, because as it hangs on your hip, it actually makes it even more comfortable to draw. You know, you don't have to do some weird forward motion like that. But straight up would totally be fine as well. But canted backward just slightly works nicely. Plus it exposes the leather a little bit, so you get a little more of that aesthetic if you're into that. We have a AAA battery that I actually attached to the Dangler adapter. So if you do end up deciding to disengage the Dangler adapter altogether and rock this as a scout sheath only, you'd be losing that AAA battery. It's not a huge deal. Hopefully you don't mind too much. I mean, like Ginger had told me, she can always throw the extra stuff in her pocket anyway, so I think she's open to that idea. I would love it to be a solution on the sheath, but just with the space that we have available, I decided this was the best way to go. So if you take the adapter off, you're going to lose that the extra AAA battery. But anyway, the holder that's on there right now, it is a two-way draw, but I would recommend, at least for my sausage fingers, I have a really hard time gripping it above up here, so I find it's easiest just to kind of push it out down below, and then it's very easy to pull straight down. I have to twist it just a little bit. It's a pretty smooth draw, and the heat from molding around this battery actually started to mess up the plastic on the little plastic encasement on it, so I think a new battery would probably draw a little bit smoother. But the whole reason I have it just, you know, tight like this obviously is because it is a two-way draw, and if you're drawing out the bottom, it doesn't make sense to enclose the top. It only makes sense if it's going to be a vertical carry that I enclose the bottom to prevent it from falling out. So in this case, I thought it was necessary just to make it a little bit tighter so that you would have security on that battery and be confident that that's not just going to drop out on you. The flashlight, it's the Olight i3E EOS, like I said. This guy as well was a little bit tricky to make this holder for. I decided to put Kydex around the narrower part of the flashlight. I could have done it around the emitter housing, but I decided to do it on the shaft itself, the battery compartment essentially. And what that turned out to be was a hassle, because the battery compartment is actually not the same diameter along here as it is at the very end of the tail cap. I thought it was just looking at it, but I can tell when I'm trying to move it through the sheath that something is either out of round or there's a diameter fluctuation. So one of the things that I ended up basically having to do, I loosened it as much as I thought was really possible without causing it to be, you know, allowing there to be a rattle in it or compromising, you know, the security of your device here. But it is just a little bit tight. She sent it to me with this lanyard on it, so I didn't cut it off or anything. I personally wouldn't use it, but if you are going to use it, here's how I'm going with it. It is a one-way draw because of the contour of the sheath. This is going to block you from being able to put the light in from the bottom. So what you're going to want to do is drop that lanyard through first. Pretty easy to do. And then you can actually just pull the lanyard to snug that guy in there. On drawing, regrettably, it's not a one-way draw. It just kind of is what it is with that diameter fluctuation. But all I'm really going to do with this is just use my finger to lift it up. You are going to have to brace the sheath with one hand. So as it's hanging on your hip, you're going to want to brace the sheath. So you lift that up, and then you can just pull it out by the emitter housing. It's pretty easy to do. You know me, I usually like to do things one-handed if possible. With this guy, I just felt like it would end up really compromising the integrity of it and making something a little bit janky about it. So this was the best solution that I felt was available to us. So, all right. What else is there? Oh yeah, the compass. So the compass, Sunto Clipper. This is my favorite compass right now. Well, it's my favorite small compass. I really like the Sunto MC2. I think is my it's the M30 or the A30. I've forgotten. It's one of their bigger compasses, but I really like Sunto stuff. And as far as putting a compass on a sheath, I think this is the best option on the market. It's also only $15, and it is a really high quality compass. I trust it completely. So you guys should check them out. How I do my compass holders, pretty much universally, I can do it a couple different ways, but this is what I've found to be the most reliable, and I think it looks the best and just provides the best multi-function, I guess, you know, cross, what am I trying to say? It provides more than one function simultaneously. So this, you guys know me, I like to do reinforcement plates on the tip. But what I'm doing with this is I've got it cut just at the right depth so that the compass will, you know, kind of ride. It's got this little clipper on it, hence the name. So you can see that back piece is like a little clipper, and you can slip it onto a pocket or whatever. You can see that there is a groove cut out on this bottom piece, and there is a tooth attached to the top piece that kind of fits into that groove. So it's meant to, you know, pinch things and clip onto things and have some retention, self-retaining capability. However, when you have a plate like this where, you know, imagine this hole wasn't there, that tooth would actually just cause there to be a slight angle upward on the top piece of the compass. That's how I was rocking it for a little bit. I hadn't really thought to address that because it felt secure enough, but a customer who got a sheath off me ended up putting a little notch in it, and then, you know, and that's where the tooth kind of fell into, so the body of the compass sits really flat against the plate. And he sent me some pictures in an email and showed me, and I really thought that was a great idea, so I've been rocking that ever since. Just so happens the tooth is about 1/4 inch wide, so I put a 1/4 inch drill hole there. And how you put this compass back on there is you just slip the clipper underneath the plate. Actually, you can see the plate is floated. How I normally do my plates, reinforcement plate, is right flat against the sheath itself, riveted on there. And you do some kind of like border thing like that. So in contrast, you can see we do have the border, but I've floated the plate by putting some spacers between the plate and the sheath. So the sheath still gets, the sheath still gets the benefit of the reinforcement, but it also has that, it also has that space underneath it, so the clipper portion of the compass can slide in there. I have it cinched down just tight enough that it isn't a free, it isn't like freely moving in and out of there. You do have to push it just a little bit, so that wedging pressure there is going to help to retain this. But what you want to do is you just get that clipper, slip behind there, and then you just kind of guide the compass, the center of the compass, toward that hole. You see it pop down there. Sometimes you can even hear it kind of click down, but you'll know it's in when the body of the compass is flush against there. It is fairly secure. You can definitely pop it off with a hard knock, but you know, I don't think this is going to fall off or just come off incidentally. And when you want to take it off, all you have to do is kind of lift the tip up and slide it backward. I have a hard time holding on to it when I remove it, so you might want to, I find it's probably actually easiest with the thumb on the back of it. I did that. Or your dominant hand, I should say. Like so. I put 2 fingers on the front and my thumb on the back. That way I don't send it flying when it finally comes off there. So anyway, it is very easy to put on and take off. So I would highly recommend, if you're looking for a compass, to consider Suntoe. And if you're going to add one to a sheath, the Suntoe clipper is the way to go. It's only 15 bucks. So I don't think you can really beat that. I'd be curious to know if there are other companies out there producing this kind of quality for that price, but I don't think there are. All right, last thing to show you is the draw on the knife itself. So this thing has an exceptionally smooth draw. The retention, very good. You're hearing the dangler rattling around. Not rattling, but slapping against the handle. So yeah, this thing is great. There's no rattle, no play. Yeah, secure retention and absolutely a ballistic one-handed draw. So I'm very, very happy with how this came out. Ginger, I hope you really like this. I hope you like the colors I chose for it. Her color choice on the last project was Cryptek Extreme EMT Red on the hatchet and Cryptek Pontus on the Mora Eldris. So this is obviously something completely different, but I thought it would look really nice to match, you know, sort of a Kydex accent with the handle and then something to contrast. And I thought these colors just went really, really nicely together. I'm doing this exact same color combination for another project really soon as well. So I really wanted to test it out. I think it looks really nice, and hopefully you really like this, Ginger. So guys, let me know what you think of the Fieldcraft 3.5. If you've used the Tops Bob, let me know what you think of that knife as well. And give me some thoughts and feedback on having some kind of apparatus like this. Maybe this is a good way to carry, I don't know, like pens or something along these lines, you know, maybe a ferro rod or whatever. so you don't necessarily have to have everything on a sheath. I'm trying to kind of expand and come up with other carry options for some of the accessories, because I might have bitten off a little more than I can chew with some of the projects that I've done now, where there's just like absolutely every possible accessory that you can imagine attached to the same sheath, and it works fine if you have a huge system, you know, big knife like Elchete, you can fit a bunch of stuff on, things like that. But I'm getting a lot of people now asking me for like just like 7 or 8 different attachments on a knife that's only like a 5-inch blade or something. And I'm not saying it can't be done, I'm just saying it gets really, really tricky and complicated. So maybe coming up with some kind of matching system on the side to carry it would be a good solution. So I'm always brainstorming that, but I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Do you think it's a good idea? Pros, cons, yeah, just let me know what you guys think. So if you like this sheath, if you like this video, you know what to do. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. I appreciate you guys sticking around for this long. I've been rambling for 25 minutes, 26 minutes. Yeah, share it with all your buddies. So, appreciate you tuning in. Stick around for the next one, guys. God bless.